ألف لام را تلك آيات الكتاب المبين إنا أنزلناه قرآنا عربيا لعلكم تعقلون نحن نقص عليك أحسن القصص بما أوحينا إليك هذا القرآن وإن كنت من قبله لمن الغافلين.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Nahmaduhu nusalli ala rasulil kareem. Amma ba'du fa'auzu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. I welcome you to my YouTube channel, Tazkira tul Furqan series, Ep.1, the story of Sulaiman a.s. and the ants. The story is taken from Surah An-Naml, Surah number 27, verses 15 to 18, juz number 19. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. وَلَقَدْ آتَيْنَا دَاوُودَ وَسُلَيْمَانَ عِلْمًا وَقَالَ الْحَمْدُ لِلَّهِ الَّذِي فَضَّلَنَا عَلَى كَثِيرٍ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ وورث سليمان داود وقال يا أيها الناس علمنا منطق الطير وأوتينا من كل شيء إن هذا لهو الفضل المبين وحشر لسليمان جنوده من الجن والإنس والطير فهم يوزعون حتى إذا أتوا على واد النمل قالت نملة يا أيها النمل ادخلوا مساكنكم لا يحطمنكم سليمان وجنوده وهم لا يشعرون صدق الله العظيم.
ألف لام را تلك آيات الكتاب المبين.
And indeed, we gave knowledge to Dawood alayhi salam and Sulaiman alayhi salam, and they both said, all praise and thanks are Allah's, who has preferred us to many of his believing slaves. And Sulaiman alayhi salam inherited the knowledge of Dawood alayhi salam. He said, O mankind, we have been taught the language of birds, and on us have been bestowed all things. This verily is the evident grace from Allah. And there were gathered before Sulaiman alayhi salam his hosts of jinn and men and birds, and they all were set in battle order, marching forward. Till when they came to the valley of the ants, one of the ants said, O ants, enter your dwellings, lest Sulaiman alayhi salam and his host should crush you while they perceive not. Now I'm going to go through the story of Sulaiman alayhi salam and the ants, and we'll learn what is mentioned in these verses. The very first thing we understand from these verses is the importance of knowledge. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made it very clear in this verse and several other places that knowledge is important. A person with knowledge and a person with no knowledge, they cannot be equal. The next thing is how to acquire knowledge. To acquire knowledge, the first thing is to have the right intention. Without the right intention, without the sincere intention, no one can acquire knowledge. Then make an effort. Try your best and keep praying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give you knowledge. So these are the couple of things that are important. The third point here we understand is that knowledge is always from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in this verse, وَلَقَدْ آتَيْنَا دَاوُودَ وَسُلَيْمَانَ عِلْمًا. And indeed, we are the one who gave knowledge to Dawood alayhi salam and Sulaiman alayhi salam. So, the knowledge is always from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whatever we achieve as an individual, we have to understand that the knowledge has come from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, the next point is once a person acquired knowledge, what should that person do? How that person should behave, which is a very important thing. In this verse, we understand from Sulaiman a.s. and Dawood a.s. who said, وَقَالَ الْحَمْدُ لِلَّهِ الَّذِي فَضَّلَنَا عَلَى كَثِيرٍ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. They thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They were very clear that the knowledge given to them was from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because of that knowledge, they are better than a lot of people who believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So there are people who don't believe and there are people who believe. And Sulaiman a.s. and Dawood a.s., they have mentioned very clearly in this verse that they found themselves better than, because of the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, better than a lot of people who believed in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in these verses, Sulaiman a.s. and Dawood a.s. taught us how to be humble. And this is a very important message for all of us. Then further, Sulaiman a.s. inherited from Dawood a.s. What he inherited? Of course, the knowledge, lots of other things, including prophethood. So the scholars have mentioned that inheritance in this verse is linked to prophethood. Others say that this is the knowledge. And this is again a very important point, that parents, they want their children to be better than them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed Dawood alayhi salam. Sulaiman alayhi salam became a king. He prayed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, "Oh Allah, give me a kingdom that you have not given to anyone before me or will not be given to anyone after me." And his prayer was answered and accepted. So Sulaiman alayhi salam became the king no one has seen before. Sulaiman alayhi salam again in this verse is thanking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He addressed people and said that, "O people, I am given the knowledge so that I can communicate with birds, and I've been given everything," which is again is being thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and showing his humbleness. And in the end of this verse, he acknowledged that this is a clear blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, in the next verse, we learn the importance of discipline. Sulaiman alayhi salam, who was the king, was very disciplined. He wanted his army of jinn, men, and birds to be disciplined. So, as mentioned in the next verse, وَحُشِرَ لِسُلَيْمَانَ جُنُودَهُ مِنَ الْجِنِّ وَالْإِنسِ وَالطَّيْرِ فَهُمْ يُوزَعُونَ. He moved his army of jinn, men, and bird. They were all disciplined. So the nearest to Sulaiman alayhi salam were the mankind. Then further away from them are the jinn, and the birds were flying above them with a shade. So they move on until they reached a place which is the valley of the ants. One of the ants saw Sulaiman alayhi salam and his army approaching towards their valley, and the ant said, "O ants, go inside your dwellings, because Sulaiman alayhi salam and his army may crush you and will not realize what they have done, because they will not be able to see you because you are so tiny." Sulaiman alayhi salam was able to communicate with ant, heard that, and he smiled. So what we learn from this one is for us to be aware of our surroundings. Very important point. Of course, we cannot communicate with birds, insects, animals, and we do a lot of things to disturb those animals, birds, and insects, even kill them, make it difficult for them, and we don't realize because we cannot communicate. And this is a very important lesson here. Often we are walking and we don't realize that the way we are walking, we are making it difficult for people walking around us. Or sometimes we are talking loudly, we are making difficult for people, we are disturbing them, we don't realize that. Sometimes we go to the masjid, we are sitting in a way that we are making it difficult for people to walk or sit, or the way we park our cars, or lots of other things. The message we get from this verse is very clear, that we need to be aware of our surroundings. May Allah make it easy for us. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun wa salamun al mursalin walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.
ألف لام را تلك آيات الكتاب المبين إنا أنزلناه قرآنا عربيا لعلكم تعقلون نحن نقص عليك أحسن القصص بما أوحينا إليك هذا القرآن وإن كنت من